Hey everybody, welcome to Tune Up, a Shop Monkey podcast where we talk about the automotive industry and car care, specifically that 99% of a car's life spent outside the dealership. In this episode, we're going to discuss automotive repair shop stereotypes. More specifically, how can shops and the overall automotive industry help reverse some of those less positive stereotypes that have come up over the years? Does it take one bad apple to spoil the whole bunch? How can vehicle owners see that the industry is looking to turn all this around? Or do you think that's blown out of proportion? Is there a negative stereotype? My name is Zach Buffum, and alongside of the rest of the Shop Monkey colleagues here today, we make up your tune-up crew, all with various perspectives, passions, and insights into the automotive industry. Let me introduce you to the rest of the folks. In first position, we have Gallagher, E36 Wilson. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Not E46, E36.
Notorious BMW fan, Gallagher.
It's numbers and letters, man.
Okay, numbers and letters, yep. In second position, we have Jonathan, 240SX. We're ready.
I'll take it.
Rift missile.
Rift missile, that's right. Third position, we have Lucas Miata Conyer.
What's going on, everyone?
What's up?
All right, let's
see
just
Mike.
wrote this.
Yes, he did.
I'm gonna give myself Miata. Let's give Mike Dodge Durango. Nah.
Here we go.
Come on,
And then
what we got?
P4, we got Mike BRZ Bordeaux.
Yes. All right, I'll take it.
I thought you were going to get Mike Crossfire Bordeaux.
Oh, man. I messed up. Missed opportunity. Yeah, good one.
The one Daimler Chrysler product I might take.
To round the theme off, though, we have Zach, RX-7.
Rounding off is a bad term in automotive podcasts.
Yeah,
We want to round
squares.
things off. We want to keep them clean.
To round off this name theme, it's Zach, RX-7 Buffum. So we got E36, 240SX, Miata, BRZ, RX-7. And what is the theme? What's the one thing? I decided this week we'll throw a little cheat sheet in there. What's the one thing that fits?
Classic amateur drift cars.
That's a
Drifting.
good one. That's
Well,
actually solid.
That's not in
not
my
it.
notes at all. No.
That's not what we were going for, but that's solid. It's
Well,
actually
the BRZ
on par.
throws it out of that because you're not trashing your brand new BRZ. Whereas I would
I used one,
absolutely trash an old E36.
I've seen my fair share of trash BRZs. Fred.
I was gonna say like 90s rear wheel drive heroes, but again the BRZ throws it out.
Let's think chassis wise. Why would all of these fall into one bucket?
Yeah, entry level, just tuner, rear wheel drive.
And Mike would really, really like them if
He could fit.
Dang it, you beat me.
Is it chassis in which people have swapped an LS?
yes, that is exactly what it is. There's some of the most popular LS swap chassis that are used.
I'll have you know, I went through this entire list of cars and tried to sit in them just to see if I could swap an LS to one of them. So there you go, man. You nailed it.
Nice. There we go.
That's awesome.
Great job, guys.
Well done, Lucas. That was a good pick. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our main topic. So we've heard stories throughout the industry where vehicle owners simply have not had the best experience with shops in the past. Maybe the customer didn't understand why their estimate was so high, or why a repair can take so long or longer than in their mind than it needs to, or even why parts are so expensive or more expensive than they thought it would be. In these kind of scenarios, that's led others to have like a really negative stereotype, thinking that a shop's just trying to have one over on them. How can the industry or shop specifically go about reversing some of these negative stereotypes?
I got ideas. I'm giving you guys an opportunity.
Yeah, I'll go in first. Hold on, because Moretti
get heckled
starts
a
and
lot.
he doesn't
Yeah.
end.
I'm
Hold
trying
on,
to give
hold
you
on,
a wide
hold on,
open
yeah.
spaces here.
Press mute there, Moretti. No, I was just going to say communicate. I think communication goes, oh no, I just started something with Moretti. My comment was going to be communication. I know that's a very simple answer, and I know we're in the industry of helping kind of streamline that communication for a lot of shop owners, and we see a lot of success in that. But I think a lot of those comments are things that we've seen from different stories over time. boils down to poor communication, poor kind of like expectation setting. And that's not necessarily always like the intention behind what happens. And, but I feel like that alone is a chipping in the right direction of like, hey, we want to improve the overall experience for everything that comes in and out of our shop. And that starts with just like really clear communication that our customers know where we stand when they come in the door. We care about them having a good experience, but also we're going to keep it transparent with them on the status of their vehicle and what we recommend and how we go about it. Communication, it really boils down to how that's been, how that's all played out over time.
If I can add on to that. I mean, I think just my experience talking to folks in the shop, that is definitely the most impactful thing that I've noticed in conversation is just being able to easily communicate with somebody basic progress that their vehicle is making through the shop. But I think, really expanding on that even further would go a long way as well to kind of dismissing that sense that the shop's trying to get one over on them. Because I mean, communicating with them is great, saying, hey, your car's being worked on, doesn't really tell me much about what's being done in my car. And I mean, you can kind of give them like a little blurb of we're servicing blah. But I've seen where folks will take like links, like knowledge-based links to like common services, brake suspension, whatever, and actually have like a written article or a video or a synopsis of some sort that the customer can digest when you send it to them. So that, I mean, we all get, what's it called? Sticker shock when you spend $1,000, $2,000. So if somebody is sitting in a lobby after spending $2,000 waiting for the work to be done, they're probably going to go do their own due diligence, go on Google. And, on a Google search, you're going to find forums and like negative sentiment, negative experiences at other shops. So then you're going to be, waiting for your customer to boil themselves over by the time they come back and you're done working on their car. So giving them some knowledge base to just share and say like, here's what we're doing to your car. Here's why that's important. Maybe you can head some of those off at the pass.
And I'll just jump in one more time before Moretti jumps in. I was just going to say it's hard to translate the investments that go into shops, right? I know a lot of the overhead, the cost, the pricing comes out because, we have bills we need to pay, and that needs to translate, and that does boil down to someone paying for that. And that's fair to say for any business, right? There's overhead, and there's the way that needs to trickle down to our customers and how we end up making a profit and being able to keep the lights on. And that's really hard to translate in this industry. You're not going to tell someone, hey, I paid, $10,000-$15,000 for an alignment rack and I paid this for the shop. And that's why this is so expensive. If you know
an alignment rack going for $10,000 to $15,000, will you please dial me in on that? Because it's more like $45,000 to $55,000.
I'll show you all the shops I worked at, man. I'm pretty sure that's about what they go for.
Underscoring Lucas's point here, though, like for sure.
It's hard to, thanks, Moretti. It's hard to translate all of that, right?
No, I think I do want to jump in because it does parlay to what you just said. I think there's a generational shift that we are sitting right in the middle of, where cars became significantly more difficult and expensive to work on. The parts supply chain to get parts to work on the cars got significantly more expensive. So I do think that there is a mindset of, oh man, this is way more than I expected to pay to get this fixed. Because we are right at the apex of when cars got significantly more expensive to make, those cars are now aging into aftermarket, truly repair, not service, not oil changes, not brakes, but they're truly getting to the point where cars that begun, wow, man, you'd think I don't talk for a freaking living. Cars that started to get manufactured in a way that was more expensive, are now aging into that point where they are breaking enough to have significant services done. And those significant services, while titled the same as a service on an even older car, are by no means the same order of operation as they used to be. There's significantly more training that goes involved to be, first of all, even able to do it. That training means labor is more expensive. That training means that the time of the labor to do the work takes longer. And then the parts to do it also are more involved. And the tools required to do it are much more. There are tools you cannot do without several $1,000 computers now just to tell the car that you finished the job. That's all you're doing. You're saying, I put this thing in, it's new, and the car has to accept that you did that. Wild to think about, but that tool, that training is a significant cost to the business. So, I have some other ideas, but I'll pause at that one to kind of open up the floor, because I think that we are.
How do you convey that though? How do you convey that to the customer in a way that reverses those negative stereotypes?
Yeah, great question. I think personally, you nailed it. I think it's about expectation setting and informing. I ran a shop. Did not come from the automotive industry. Before I ran the shop, I was an outsider coming in, and I had shout out to my guys. I had some great guys that I worked with, but I also had days where they were like, "Yeah, dummy, of course this is what we're doing," and I'm like, "No, not of course. I had no idea that that's what it took to do this, and therefore my customer had no idea that that's what I took to do this, because I'm out in the front trying to, I don't want to paint it like I was trying to save my technicians. I mean, that was my job, to work with customers while technicians were working on cars. But we all have to slow down a little bit beyond the fact of, at my business, I want to inform more because it will benefit me, and actually take a further step back and say, automotive service is different than it used to be, and we have to be ambassadors of that new automotive service world. That's from, I'm coming at you. That's from technicians up to service writers and managers and owners. Everyone has to be having that conversation from first call to last to start informing and setting those expectations.
I love that point. The fact that it's a team effort. It's not just the owner, someone puts a stake in the ground and says we're doing it. It's that everyone needs to buy into that theme. And I think the more team members that buy in, the larger the impact could be locally in terms of the industry of like, wow, they're doing it that way. Maybe, hey, we're trying to stay competitively speaking, competitive with other shops in the area. What are they doing different? Oh, well, they're doing X, Y, and Z different. Maybe we should try that, right? And so it's maybe moving the needle for the industry at that point, but it's a team effort at the single location level.
I think I just underscore from my background too, and I think we're all talking around it. Partly that ties back to the community, or the episode we did several episodes back around shop culture, right? Which is how are you building and defining your culture in your shop? And that's a huge part of it. Like considering that everybody, whether it's the tech or the person sweeping the floors, the service writer, they're all really in some sense customer facing. And even if they're not talking to customers all day, everything they do impacts customers. But I think to the specific topic, my experience was 90+% of all the negative interactions that I had in the shop were failures of communication. And look, I mean, communication is two or more people talking, right? So there's always ways for that to be two-sided. But I always assumed that if somebody didn't understand something, that was my bad as the professional in the environment. And so, like, how can I go close the gap? I think, Jonathan, things you're talking about, like education, expectation setting, just understanding that, like, it's not, the vision of maybe what my dad would have grown up with in the 70s and 80s. Everybody's dad kind of worked on the cars and understood cars. Like, that's gone. Nobody knows what these things do. They're just machines that you take to somebody and they charge you money and it hopefully keeps working, right? And so it's up to shops and those of us in the industry who understand it to demystify, to educate, and to set expectations. And that's where you can close the gap around those stereotypes. And the shops that do this well win. I mean, that's who's getting good reviews, and they keep customers longer and they get better retention and more referrals because people feel like it's a shop that doesn't have a lot of those stereotypes. It doesn't fit that mold, right? So, yeah,
I think that's great. I think that you have to, the burden falls on the shop. As much as I would like to say, as a guy who's been frustrated by customers on various occasions as a manager and a service writer, the burden falls on the shop. That's my business. If I'm going to throw up a flag that says I fix cars, I better be ready for everything that comes with that, including the communication piece. And it has to start from the first conversation. So, I'm bringing my vehicle in for service. What vehicle is it? What is that? You can start planting the seeds of what that means. Like, oh yeah, okay, that's I don't know, I'm just making stuff up in the moment, but like, oh yeah, that's going to require some more diagnostic time. We actually have to, what is the term? I'm forgetting the term of like, wow, I'm having a brain fart. But like when you replace a part and you have to like register it in the car. Okay, we're gonna have to register that's here. Yeah, we will do that service for you. We actually have to put, oh, you have that new BMW. We actually have to put that in the service position that requires a certain computer so we can lift it up without the dynamic suspension going crazy. So we're going to do that for you. we're going to apply, we're going to drain the oil, we're going to fill it up. It's going to take it's going to take an extra hour because they don't have dipsticks anymore. So we're going to actually have to watch the computer as we fill it to see that it is correct. Nobody that I don't want to say nobody, most people that I interacted with in the automotive space did not want to go to that level of detail. But I do think that that's the job now. You have to kind of explain what that is. And then it sounds a lot more realistic when you're like, it's, 200 plus for an oil change, because you're like, it's not like, I'm not just pulling you up on a ramp, draining, filling, getting you out. We're going to be on this thing for 2 hours because it will not allow us to move any faster than that. Now, I come from a luxury brand specialty shop, right? But that stuff trickles down. So what used to be the outer rim of high-end luxury German automotive is probably pretty much similar on modern Toyotas at this point.
That's the line's blurring, 100%. Yeah. Mazda is getting compared to BMW in many ways today with the way that they're designing their vehicles and whatnot. So
yeah,
I like your comment though, Marty. I agree with that. I think that's one of those things where, once again, it's hard to communicate, but how do you break it up into smaller chunks and then make sure to include that in everything you're doing? I will say though, and I know we're talking from the shop level right now, but from an industry perspective, and not to say we're making a massive chip and moving the needle in a big direction here, but from an industry perspective, more of these conversations just across the board, I think are really good to have, so that the end consumers, these vehicle owners, everyone that owns a vehicle kind of hears a little bit more insight into what the industry is and what's changed over the years. I don't know if enough of those conversations happen, or enough in the sense that they reach the mainstream, just the everyday vehicle owner of like, hey, this is what it takes to run a shop today. And this is why things, we probably hear it in the news, like, oh, everything's up, costs are up. But how does that translate specifically to this industry? And I think it's a really good conversation to have, that, if someone does stumble upon this and they're not from the industry, if you're just a vehicle owner out there and you're taking your car out for service the next time, look around, look at how impressive hopefully the shop is and the equipment that they're using. That's all built into kind of the experience that you're having, so that you have an efficient repair. It's done properly. You can come back around and trust them, and all of that's factored into what you're paying. And so I went to a dentist recently. I didn't like the answer I got. I went to another one. I got the most detailed response I ever got. I will only go back to that dentist. And that's just, I'm kind of making the comparison because totally different industry. But the answer I got at this one dentist was so vague and unclear to me that I just didn't feel comfortable spending money there. I never had that happen in my life. And so I went to another dentist, and the explanation I got was so clear and to the point that I was like, wow, yeah, no problem. Schedule me. I'll be back in a few weeks and schedule me for my next appointment as well. It's across every industry, and it comes down to those little bits of communication.
What's funny about that is I think we live in a time that is, there's so much, this probably isn't accurate. This is probably one of those old man things I'm about to say, but like, I feel like there's more to know. I don't know. I just feel like there's more I need to know just to get through my day to day than I used to. Just like systems and requirements.
You have AI though,
and laws and all that, right? Yeah, great. I feel like there's more for me to keep track on. Maybe that is just something as you get older and you have more responsibilities. There's more to keep track of, but I feel like I need to know more, and I get less information everywhere I go. Like everyone's just like every service that's provided to me is like, I really have to pull teeth to get detailed information about the thing I'm asking for. And because I'm used to being like, I need to know a lot, like everything I talk about, I want to know more about it. And I
want less instant messenger. I want more like detailed phone calls.
I want a Reddit thread on what you're going to do for my oil change. And I think
it's important for the shop to do that, like to explain everything to the customer in detail. But also, there's an opportunity that I don't see myself personally, shops taking advantage of to kind of broadcast that you have expertise in the shop in the first place. Yeah. Even if it's mailers or social media posts, just kind of broadcasting, I have qualified, certified, expert mechanics at my shop to do qualified expert repairs on your car. Sometimes, I don't know, it's like a nutrition label, like not everyone looks at one, but like the folks that do want to see gold labels and certifications from places. And when they see that, that's enough to know I'm going to have a good experience going to this place and get those detailed answers. Maybe
I think that I think that I have a thought on this one. I think to your point, Moretti, and to tie that together with Mike, I think what you have is you have more information available than ever before. Is kind of what you're saying, Moretti. So what actually becomes valuable is not information, but it's somebody who can make that information, sort through it, tell you what's relevant, tell you what you need to know that applies to you. Right? Yeah.
Talk about communicator. Listen to this guy.
That's what creates value. And I think to your point, Mike, that's you see, say shops, or just, it doesn't even have to be. The one I know better is maybe fitness, the fitness industry. I follow a lot of fitness YouTube, and there's so much fitness information. But if you can find someone you trust who will distill that into something you can use, now they're your go-to, and you're buying their branded, apparel or whatever, because they've built a brand around their expertise. And there is absolutely no reason shops couldn't be doing that with social media and what's available to them right now.
And some do, and they're incredibly successful because of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is something very practically they could do? I don't have a social media in my shop. I don't use it regularly. That sounds like a tremendous thing that's going to take me a lot of time and effort that I just don't know and don't have time to do. What could I do? What's my first step in that world?
Personally, as someone who also is not on social media, hire someone who is, and pay them to get the ball rolling at the very least. I
would caveat that with hire someone who's willing to do it, because there's a lot of social media salespeople out there that they're not going to understand your voice. They're just going to regurgitate that needless information. So your point is right, Mike. I just want to jump in, because don't hire someone who's just going to dump out, Gallagher, I think you started AI generated articles on automotive repair for you. Like, you can hire someone to manage the social, but you better say, I'm going to give you the content, and don't post stuff or write stuff or share stuff that I haven't written, because I am the expert. So if you hire a social media expert and then are fully hands off on your social, that's probably not good for your shop.
That's great advice. I guess my point was that a lot of the folks that we talk to are also not in the social media space.
Yeah.
Like this is diving off the deep end for them. So hiring somebody at least to get the accounts turned on, get some posts going, kind of bring you into the fold and start to introduce you to how they manage it. And then you can, get up to speed and maybe change course and maybe get some more quality content in there. But I mean, if that was something I was tasked with tomorrow, I'd be overwhelmed. So
yeah, I used to sit my guys down and interview them on camera, and because I knew them, they would talk about topics, and then I could send that to be written up by, someone to transcribe it, to type it up, or I could send it to an editor to post the video. Your point is 100% correct. I just want to caveat it with the concept of, don't outsource your voice. Outsource the task of managing a social media platform, but do not outsource your voice.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to say, even if you didn't do social media, and this might just be a smaller niche group of folks that read into this, but I get local newsletters like that I signed up for based on community posts and whatnot, but they're local newsletters for folks who have moved into a certain area, and they have different articles or in this email thread where it's just small snippets of information on local businesses or things that are going on in the community. And I was always thinking like, hey, this could be a really cool, there's different parts of the article where you can get a local highlight as a business and just talk about why maybe you stand out or what's different. That nutrition label, apply that nutrition label to something that is distributed to the local community, where you can kind of show those differences and help kind of turn that around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's other paths you can take, right? Zach, I think what you're getting at too is like, give me a checkable box, give me a checkable box that I can do to try for a little while and see how it works. So I think social media is a great idea. I think if you're not a great face-to-face communicator, you can do that through inspections or, messaging your customers on however you choose to do that, right? You can take your time to write up a really detailed response. You just have a lot more opportunities than it doesn't have to be like, okay, I hear what you're saying, Moretti. I'm going to bring every customer into my office and give them an hour breakdown on how engines are built. I get it. That's not reality, but that's the direction that's the target you want to shoot
customer
for.
We hope for.
That's the customer we want. No, most shops I know don't want that customer. They're like, we don't want to talk to anybody ever for any amount of time. But we have to change that. That's on us to change.
I'll throw out one last one that's been brought up a couple times in past episodes and conversations we had, but I think it ties into this topic.
Yeah.
The idea of, I know we do recommended services, right? Our shops have the ability to recommend services based on what they see that a vehicle needs. But I love the idea of like services by importance of like, hey, we really think as a business that these are the services that you need to get done as quickly as possible because of X, Y, and Z. And sure, we've listed out more that you would need, less critical, right? And giving that kind of path to health, or a bill of health, that how do you get to that point of having a healthy vehicle, but breaking it up in chunks for customers is also kind of ties into that education piece. But like, oh wow, okay, you gave me a plan, an action plan of like, okay, I'm going to tackle these first and then come back to you for these others when I feel like I'm in a better position to do that. But that it ties into the communication bit.
I think this is an important piece of communication, and that concept, right, of we're debunking stereotypes. So sometimes as a customer, it can feel like I came here for your, Mike, what did you say? What did you say earlier? $40 oil change special, which holler at me.
I'm going to do it myself. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, okay. That's why it's $40. I'll be in your driveway later this week.
Come on down, guys. I'll give you a Mikey special. Let's do it.
So the from a communication standpoint, right? It can feel like shops are I'm trying to help the customer at this point. The shops are trying to take advantage of you because you come in for this, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, here's $3,500 worth of work you need." So again, as a reminder, even basic services cost significantly more than they used to. So regardless of who's doing it or why or where, those costs have gone up across the board. Sorry, folks, that's just car ownership right now. But the other thing I wanted to get into is that the mindset of a technician, right? So if you're not a technician, you don't work at a shop, most people have something that they do. They have a task, they have a job, they have a hobby, whatever. They have a thing that they do that they like it to be done well. I like my work to be done well. I don't like to do it halfway. I was talking about, we were in a meeting today, and somehow Ron Swanson came up and he said, don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing, right? And so I like to do things right. So when you bring a vehicle to a technician, the job of the technician and an automotive shop and the whole team there, the owner of the service, right, the job of that business is to make sure your vehicle's perfect, to make sure it's serviced on time, correctly, that nothing's broken. And so when this big list appears, when you came in for something small, it is hard to not feel like, hey man, why are you trying to hit me with this big, bill? When really we want the vehicle perfect, and we may not want to say, oh, well, you can do this first and this later, because in our mindset, it's wrong or it's right. And so we want to tell you what's right. And so engage your shop. It's a difficult engagement because shops, we don't always do a great job at being flexible in this on our side, right? We want it right. So it's everything. Do it all because that's right. But understand that when you get that big list, it's not because, meaty opportunity just rolled through the door. It's like, hey, this is everything that we would do to make this right. And so that it's a mindset that is striving for perfection, not striving to get more money out of an individual. Got a little high horsey there at the end there. Sorry, guys.
I mean, I think it's a great point. I mean, if you're spending all of your energy, your time, your effort into making sure a customer has a good experience, they're likely going to have a good experience. Yeah. If you're focused on making money off of your customer, then nothing else, then they're likely to have a bad experience because they see what you're trying to do. So, I mean, managing customers' expectations and how much they're going to spend, making sure that they're educated and they see everything that they just spent all their money on, and then just following up with them to make sure that, hey, it's been a week, the car's still running. Did we break anything while we were in there? Make sure to come see me if anything's wrong. And then you're likely to get a good review on Google. You're likely to get a good word of mouth to other friends and family, and kind of grow the business. I think, Reddy, you said organically.
Yeah. Another thing we talked about was like Googling information, and I think Gallagher, you made a great point. That's the point I was trying to make very poorly, was like you just have access to so much more information today than you did at a certain time, and it can feel easy to look at a shop recommendation and be like, oh, I Googled it and it's not no big deal. It's, this is 10 minutes, and it's like I want to tread lightly in my response here. It's really important, to remember not everything you see online. I know we all know this, but it's easy to forget. Not everything you see online is true. So if I'm on a forum and I'm like, yeah, man, I swapped this engine out in an hour and it was easy, it might just feel good to post that on a forum and have other people be like, man, you're so cool. Like that happens. That's real. The other thing is that I personally dealt with a lot because I was in the performance aftermarket space is like, oh, well, do this and it will fix the problem. Here's a write-up that says all about it. And I'm like, as soon as the person who did this write-up offers a warranty on that fix, then I'm all about doing it, And so it's important to think about, shops don't rig things. They don't half-ass two things. They whole-ass one thing. They're going to do repairs the right way with the right tools in a way that they can stand behind for likely several years. So I think it's important when you go out and as a customer, right, we're debunking shop myths, right? When you go out as a customer and you're like, man, everything the shop is telling me is way more expensive than everything I'm seeing online. Well, online is everywhere. So the market where this work was done could be different than the market you live in. Work is more expensive here in California than it is in other states. Like cost of doing business here is more. The person that did it may or may not have actually done it. And they may or may not stand behind it if it is a business, right? So you gotta cut your shop some slack in those types of interactions.
That's a really good point. I think that's another one that excuse me, is really successful with a lot of shops is like showing that you offer a warranty, conveying that to your customer that my work, I stand behind it. I have quality professionals that know what they're doing, and that if anything were to go wrong, you have somewhere to come back to and not have to worry about paying for that repair again. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Something that not necessarily all shops do.
Yeah. I personally am going through this. I did some of my own work and I brought it into an alignment shop. I did some suspension work, brought it in to get an alignment, and turns out some of the things I installed broke, and that's on me. I bought those things. I installed them. It's not the shop's responsibility to fix that. So I'm paying them since they were kind enough to get me in quickly and give me the space. And now my car is sitting on their rack. I'm not going to make them wait 2 weeks for me to get replacement parts, right? Just paying them to do that work because that's fair. That's a relationship. They are doing me a service. It's my car. I want it. I want to drive it. Doesn't matter to them. So they're doing me a service by fixing it, by looking it over, by informing me of what they find. So I need to treat them with the respect of a partner who's providing service to me because I've asked for it, and I'm not going to jam them up. Leave my car hanging there, holding up their space.
Maybe this is kind of like rounding us out. As I know Zach usually does the wrap up, but we were talking about this a little bit ago, Moretti. Practically speaking, it's great to think about how we communicate and how we set expectations. I have a few answers, but could a shop today, if they're like, okay, cool, rubber meets the road, what do I start doing differently? You sent our group chat the text of the digital inspection with the photos of the BMW. I think you're referring to there. And so I
did share my pain with you. Yes,
you did. It was great. But I think there's some tactically speaking, what can we do? It's being ready to communicate, share knowledge, empathize with the customer when they're at your front counter. Absolutely. But, and kind of dovetailing back to Lucas's point, I love the dentist analogy. I've used that for years in my last shops. It was dentists is another industry where nobody really wants to be there. And they're dependent on making a really, really tight run system so that you leave as happy as possible. Not happy, but as happy as possible given the scenario, right? And I think automotive shops and dentists are similar. They text. They probably sent you an appointment reminder. They probably showed you pictures of what was going on in your mouth. So all of that is things DVI. Yeah, exactly. They probably ask you for a review afterwards to see if you had problems, right? So all these things that I think
they did,
just pulling the dentist thread back in. I think that there's, ways to do that. And the not so subtle plug, of course, is that ShopMonkey helps do all those things, but really, agnostic of that. Those are things that would be best practices if you're trying to figure out how do I position my shop to take it, to say, hey, I want to start treading on the path or continue treading on the path towards reversing those stereotypes. What do I start doing tomorrow that impacts customers and that helps them do that? So other people have thoughts thrown out there, but I'm taking
Gallagher, you almost missed this. You almost missed your opportunity to sit on this call and drop that knowledge.
I mean,
that's great.
I want to make sure we do get your answers to that, but I'm going to throw in again. This is me talking to vehicle owners now. How many of you have haggled with your dentist on the price of dental work? Right, like this
or
is
brought your own filling.
Expert in the field. Yeah, I brought my own filling, and my cousin. He says he can knock this out in an hour.
I've got a cross-jeweled crown for this more aerodynamic.
I'm actually going to drill it out. I'm going to drill it out at home. I'll come in just for you to fill it. I just want you to do the second part.
This has taken a turn, but a very accurate one.
But I don't want to allow us to. I would like to hear your answers to those questions. The nuts and bolts. Give me some nuts and bolts to do.
I mean, for me, I think it's DVIs, texting, like reaching, like hitting customers where they're at today, right? And I don't, that's not because I work here. I love this stuff when I worked in shops before I even knew what ShopMonkey was. I love sending DVIs because it opens up so much honesty around the communication of like to I don't remember who was saying it, but like, what order do we do things? It's like, yeah, look, these things are in red. The brakes are critical. The tires are critical. The small oil leak, let's keep an eye on it. I'm happy to keep an eye on it. And customers they respond so well to that. They'd much rather that you told them and then help them understand, what the order of battle is here, right? In at least in my experience, not everyone, I'm sure, but the vast majority. And then just being, anything like, if you're not texting a shop in 2024, you're leaving so much on the table in terms of meeting customers where they are at and communicating effectively with them. Those are like the top two for me.
Yeah, we have to rise to the challenge as well. Just because on the dental analogy as well, just because we're the experts, just because we are good at this and we have the tools to do it and the people to do it, doesn't mean we can't. Doesn't mean we get a pass on modern communication and things like that. It's still
and you wouldn't want to go to a cheaper dentist just to save a couple bucks and then wait to see the outcomes of that.
Maybe.
I don't know, not me personally.
Tough times, Lucas. Tough times.
All right. Hey, Mikey, 30 seconds, and then I'm going to do the closer. What you got, man?
I have kind of summed up all my thoughts. I really like honing in on the DVI already, though. I think that anytime I talk to a shop that isn't using a DVI yet, it kind of blows my mind as to how you're not able to convey really anything to your customer without it at this point. So photos, videos, showing them exactly what's going on with the car. Picture tells 1,000 words. And no matter how you do that, whether you use ShopMonkey or any tool, it just enables your customer to feel a sense of trust that, you're taking care of their car. You're actually going in and doing what you're saying you're doing. And you have that to look back to later on. So if there's ever any concerns that something wasn't done correctly, we have something to point to.
I like that trust factor too, because today I shared my DVI with some of you guys who have more experience with suspension than I do. And it was nice to be like, take a look at this, right? I could just share it. It became a talking point of the day, not my little private battle.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're a shop owner, we would love to hear from you. What are some of the things we talked about today that you want to try? Maybe there's a few things that you've done already and seen some success. Awesome. Please feel free to share them. If you're a car owner, what would really move the needle for you? Was there anything in particular that you're like, yes, dude, that would make a huge difference for me? Awesome. Please share that. Our shop owners would love to hear that. Also, if there's stuff that we didn't talk about, what would do it for you? What would really start to shift your stereotypes and perspectives and build that relationships back with the shops who care so deeply about you? This podcast was brought to you by ShopMonkey, the digital solution, automotive shops across America. If you're interested in learning more about our product, go to shopmonkey.com. That's shopmonkey.com, or follow the link in our description. Thanks for checking out the Tune Up Podcast. Have a good one.